Okay, we're ready to go.
Great. Thank you, Crystal. Well, welcome everyone to our, to all the members of the committee, and maybe if there's members of the public who are watching, welcome to our September 21st meeting of South Glengarry's Environment Committee. So if I could have a mover and a seconder we can go straight, I guess, to approve the agenda that Crystal had already circulated.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Mike.
Second it.
So moved by Mike, seconded by Aiden. So all in favor. Perfect. Thanks, guys. So then the next item is approval of the minutes from the July 6th, 2021 meeting. I think, Crystal, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'm asking if that item can be deferred for this meeting. I don't have the minutes prepared from the last meeting. I wasn't present, and so I'd just like if the committee would be okay if we deferred the approval of minutes until our next committee, and then I'll have this meeting and the last one on there for us.
Okay. Oh, I mean, I'm okay with that. Is there anyone who's opposed to deferring that till the next meeting? Okay. No. I understand it's difficult to write minutes for the meeting that you weren't there for.
No, it's all good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
So then the clear business arising from the minutes, then is a little bit difficult, but I didn't know if anyone from their memory, if there was something that they felt was open from the last time. Okay. No.
I apologize. Right. Everyone keeps freezing on me. I'm going to try just turning off my video and maybe I'll be able to follow better.
Okay. The other option too is I don't know if your cell service is any better, but if you want to try to dial in and do audio that way. Okay. Okay. Originally, I know we were hoping to have a presentation from, it was Mr. Kuhn at the City of Cornwall, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the diversion programs that they have. But I understand he wasn't able to be with us today, but hopefully we'll be able to reschedule him for a future meeting, because I think what he could talk to us about is probably very timely for for what our committee is doing these days. And so then that would bring us to the
Stephanie, do you mind if I just jump in?
Sure. If you think for the committee's benefit, if they'd like to know.
Oh. Okay. Yeah.
I'm having a little trouble with the connection though. So.
So yes, Dave was on a last kind of minute paternity leave. So
Angie, I'm going to suggest you try without your video because you're cutting out big time. Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Yep.
My video is off. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep. You're quite clear now.
Sorry, Painesville internet. Yeah, so Dave was on a bit of a last minute paternity leave. So he just returned today and he doesn't feel like he's prepared, and he wants to have a good presentation. So he would like to take a bit more time to prepare for that.
No, absolutely understood, and certainly we want him to have the time to prepare well so that he's comfortable. And like I was mentioning, I'm not sure if you caught it though, like, I'm sure what he has to share with us is very important or relevant to what we're working on. So
oh, absolutely.
all the
Yes.
better. Yeah.
He's got, he went over some things with me, and yeah, it's good. It'll be good.
Okay, perfect. So hopefully at our next meeting, or maybe the one after that, he'll be able to join us.
Yeah.
So then that would bring us then to update from staff. So Chris, I'll hand that over to you to go through your information report.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to share my screen just in case the public wants to follow along with what we have here. So just bear with me. Okay, can everyone see the information report?
Not yet.
Oh,
at least
how
on
about
my
now?
end. Yep.
Okay. So a couple of updates for everyone this evening. Some are short, some are going to be a little bit longer. So the food cycler update for everyone is all of our units have been distributed. The pilot project runs until October 31st. So all participants are being asked to track how many times they use their cycler. And around mid-October, we're going to send a survey out asking for a little bit of demographic information, but just the usage, specifically how often they're running it and what they've been using in the food cycler. And at that time, we're going to have some really great data to review and to go through to see the viability of this machine. So we've received a lot of requests after the pilot project was initiated. So we do have a waiting list of about 80 people on it right now, maybe more. So it's something that was really, really well received, and we're getting really good feedback. We've donated, with council's direction, we have donated some units to our local schools, including Williamstown Public. They recently posted something today online of kind of their experience, the kids' experience using it. So I encourage you to just go on Facebook and check that out. But so far it's been really well received. And my understanding is that there's more and more Ontario municipalities who are engaging food cycle science for a similar pilot project. So the hope is that we could order some more in the future. So I believe sometime in October, we'd like to take a staff report, bring a staff report to council to see if we can, order some more and maybe implement a second round. It might not be in the fall, but maybe sometime in the near future would be great. Any questions on that one? I don't know what the best way is, if we want to go through them one by one. And if anyone has questions, we can tackle them that way, or if we want to wait till the end. But
just a quick question.
Well, maybe
on this one,
for
Crystal.
the food cycling, go ahead, Mike.
yeah,
I'm just curious if the people that are on the wait list, are they being advised that they can buy direct from the company? Obviously at full pop, but if they really want it, they can always get it, right?
yeah. Some people have reached out to us asking how they can get it anyway, and we direct them to the Vitamix website. But a lot of people are okay with being patient, just because there is a significant cost difference between buying it through Vitamix and buying it through us. But for sure, if people are coming to us and asking, well, I want it today, we direct them to the right source for sure.
Okay.
Okay. I thought we'd maybe just skip over this. We'll save the garbage and recycling collection one to the last, because I feel that's going to create the most discussion this evening. So I'm going to just give everyone an update on the waste composition study. So as you all know, we've talked about this at most of our meetings so far. We had the final audit scheduled for actually this week. And last week or the week before, we received notice from Stewardship Ontario that they were not able to come the week that was set forth in September. So it's now been delayed until October 25th. So, some things are out of our control, and this unfortunately is one of them. So we're looking forward to having this final audit done so that we can really look at the data that was collected over the past year.
Do we, on that one, because I don't know if I've ever seen like I've seen the data, like I've seen sort of in a raw form, but I've never seen like a report report necessarily. Is that something that comes like on a yearly basis where someone sort of, someone who's expert in the data sort of summarizes it, sort of executive summary fashion, or is it still sort of just the raw data that we get?
My understanding is that right now we're only getting the raw data after each audit. And then at the end of the 4 audits, they make that information available on their website, and they don't identify the areas in which they did the waste collection, but all that data is meant to be summarized for us. I don't know if it's an executive report that they give or if it's just an overall summary, but I can certainly make a note to find out what exactly we'll be receiving at the end of the audits. But my understanding is that the data, it's not like a full detailed report on we should be doing A, B, and C. It's kind of like a summary of what they've collected from our audit areas.
Anyone else have questions on that one?
All right.
My favorite day of the year. My favorite day of the year.
And it looks like it's going to be a nice day. So Hazardous Waste Day is this Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Smithfield Park. So you'll see a bunch of staff that will be there on that day, helping out with the operations. It's Drainall who runs the event. I think last year we maybe have broke some records with the amount of household waste, hazardous waste that we collected. So it'll be interesting to see this year if there's any comparison or if there's a change in the amount we receive. But hopefully we have.
And
a nice
in terms
day
of how it's running, it's same as in years past.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to have signage up this week. I think we're putting a sign in Williamstown, just like kind of like election signs, just to put a little bit more visual direction, because there are a lot of people who may have never attended it before in our municipality. And yeah, you go in through the Legion, out through the park. So the setup's the same every year. It typically runs like a well-oiled machine. So it's usually a very successful day. So that's, we're looking forward to that on Saturday. And the last topic, the one we've all been waiting for, of course, is the garbage and recycling collection. So administration, we've been working really, really hard on getting this RFP ready. We plan on issuing it tomorrow. Stephanie did forward me all of the feedback that the Environment Committee had sent. And I really appreciate the time you guys took to do that. It certainly helped us in our writing process. But there's a few things that that will be ongoing, I think, aside from issuing the RFP, that I think the Environment Committee will be really helpful with. And as you know, Deputy Mayor Lyle had sent a letter to the Environment Committee asking for their input on specific, specific ideas and operations that that council would like feedback on. So in this section of the information report, we have some talking points that we'd like to open up for discussion, including so our bag limit delivery schedule. I think everybody was in agreement that a bag limit needs to be implemented. So we have a suggested delivery schedule here in front of you. You can see January 2022, we would go from 4. In June, we would go to 3. And then next December would be our 2-bag limit.
Yeah, I think I would just clarify. I think it's not so much it's proposed. I mean, as I recall at the last council meeting, meeting where this was discussed, this is the schedule that council has approved. and now it's sort of asking now. So within all these points, it's sort of asking for our input as, you know, the Environment Committee on how can we help make it successful to achieve that schedule.
So, you know, exemption discussion, that's something that we can talk about. Bag tags, a communication plan, and innovative waste diversion ideas. So there's a bit of discussion to be had on this. So I don't know if I can stop maybe sharing my screen, and I can allow you guys to kind of discuss these ideas, and I'll take the minutes while you guys have that discussion.
And in terms of how we're going to feed this back, this information, are you going to try to capture it so that it's in our minutes, and then if we just approve our minutes, so that's how we will, that's the best way to
I think that was,
yeah,
that was my idea, or that's what I was going to do. But if you think that like a report or a letter to council from the Environment Committee stating, you know, we'd like council to consider these things as per discussed in, you know, the Environment Committee meeting, that might be another way of doing it too.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess, I mean, at
that
this
might
point, though,
actually
you'll be
make it
taking
more
impactful.
make it easier.
Yeah. But for the time being, you're taking good notes. That's probably the most important thing right now.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so I mean, I was going to suggest that we just go through the items as Crystal had laid them out in that report. So the first item that council wanted some guidance on was in terms of exemptions, things to make sure that we, like folks who would not be subject to the bag limit. You know, it's not done the same way in every jurisdiction. Some jurisdictions have exemptions for different things. So, you know, one category was you know, like families with special needs, and this could be, you know, you could include you know, small children, babies in diapers, to, you know, folks of all ages who have, you know, additional medical needs. Also like group homes, large families, or, you know, I think one of the items was special
So how are
events.
we going to, oh, sorry, you froze.
No, go
are
ahead,
you
Angie.
still, you're good? Oh,
well,
okay.
I was just sort of throwing out, and agriculture was the last one that was sort of like different exemption categories that were to discuss. So go ahead, Angie.
So, yeah, how do we determine who these families are? I know in Cornwall with the clear bags for the diapers, or was that another area? But people, seniors didn't want that to be in clear bags outside their house.
So that's, I mean, that hasn't been specifically decided, I guess, in terms of clear bags. I mean, to be honest, like the issue of clear bags hasn't come up. So if that's something that this committee thinks that is a very important part of the program or to be successful, I mean, that's something we can suggest. But
Just
these
how
are all
they,
things that this is all things for us to chat about. Like, how would it be an application process? Would it be, you know, going to the office and, you know, I mean, obviously it should be something not too onerous, but also not something that puts people too much on the spot either. You know what I mean? Like we want to preserve everyone's dignity in the process as well.
I guess my point was just trying to not have that as
not have exemptions, you mean? Or?
No, not have the clear bags for diapers for seniors.
Right. And I mean, I think I would just something that's, I mean, this is sort of this, we're making a big change, right? And so, you know, this is how do we start implementing this in a successful way? And I mean, that doesn't mean that maybe, I don't know, another council in the next term or something, or 2 terms from now wants to, you know, add things to this program in the sense of, you know, change things like consider clear bags or something like that. But we don't have to do exactly how it's been done in other areas. We have of kind of wide open right now how we want to do it.
The council hasn't discussed anything yet. Any ideas on that yet? Is there anything that has been discussed so far, or
I would
first discussion?
say, I can't, most of it was coming to us. That there's been little discussion. I would say the one thing that has come up, but it wasn't this is so not in council, in the council meeting, but it's somewhat informal, is sort of the understanding that agriculture businesses would be exempt from the bag limit. That was probably one thing that sort of, I know that was said. I know that was not something that was challenged. I think there's a certain element of that's considered going to be assumed that that's part of this. But again, if the committee thinks that that's inappropriate, I mean, there's nothing that stops the committee from making that suggestion. But
are they completely exempt? There's no rules for agricultural purposes? How does that work? It just seems kind of, not that I want to put rules on them by any means. I just mean
that's an interesting way of expressing the question. I mean, in the past, the 8 bag limit we had, to my understanding, applied everywhere to everyone. So I wouldn't say that there are no rules. I think this is talking about how, we're talking specifically about what is appropriate exemptions to the 2 bag limit.
Right,
So
that makes sense.
I mean,
are businesses exempt as well? I would assume.
So if my understanding, and Chris will correct me if I'm wrong, or I guess Chris is on the line too, is my understanding is technically our waste pickup program for residential properties. It is not meant to be for businesses. However, that's not always easy necessarily it's not always easily identifiable. Certainly some of the hamlets too, right? Where it's not always clear, is that garbage from a business or is that garbage from a residence? But the intent is this is residential waste pickup.
Some thoughts on this. As far as the agricultural aspect of this, I would encourage council to reach out to the GFA and ask them for their comments on it and what they think about it, what their membership thinks about it. I'm about to have a siren be really loud here, I think.
As long as it's not your house, it's okay, right?
Give me a sec.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the benefit of having an active member of the GFA being part of South Glengarry Council.
Absolutely,
but
absolutely.
To your point, there's nothing wrong with it probably makes a lot of sense to have a formal, make that a formal ask.
And that's, I mean, North has been engaging with GFA quite a bit just on a couple of different bylaws that we've been working on. So they're there to represent the farming family. So I'd say it'd be a good mechanism to get the feedback from that sector specifically. As far as exemptions, I think some sort of a simple standard form for people to apply for an exemption. I would expect the exemption would have to result in them being handed bag tags, because it's not like your drivers are going to know, they pull up to a certain driveway and, oh yeah, it's okay for me to pick up 8 or 10 bags here. And those people, I mean, it's not something you're making public. I mean, in terms of, as you say, preserving dignity, it can be as simple as, a doctor's note saying, there's a medical condition here that requires an excessive amount of waste. That's all that you really need, I think. I think it probably then leads into a conversation about bag tags and how that looks and what happens with them. And I don't think that needs to be overly complicated. But yeah, I think, I see group homes on here. Are group homes covered under the residential program? I would think that they would have bins and they would have somebody coming in to take that away separately.
I think that there are some businesses that will have, they'll purchase or they'll rent a dumpster So I think maybe in these instances, they would have the 8-bag limit. However, if they produce more waste than that, they could be purchasing their own, or not purchasing their own dumpster, but renting one out through the waste collection companies.
Yeah, procuring the service, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think really, as far as the exemptions, you're looking at special needs, so medical and or physical, which presumably would be medical. Your large families, I'm not sure how to necessarily go about the large family thing. And what's the definition of a large family? Are we talking, anything greater than 3 kids? Are we talking anything greater than 8 kids?
We had initially put 10
Okay.
as like a baseline. But again, this is all really good, good discussion. And it's also not something that, we need to know tonight, but it helps us to understand where everyone is, I guess what people envision for our waste collection services, not so much what we've done in the past, but almost like a fresh slate. How can we keep our level of service or improve it? So for instance, exemption feedbacks, do we want to create a procedure that is going to bottleneck people's where we're bombarded with these requests, like operationally, that might be really difficult to manage in a small municipality. However, we could certainly set guidelines so that, if you fall within them, whether it's for special needs or a large family, then we can address them case by case. That could in itself could be difficult as well.
Aiden, go ahead.
Just want to clarify what special events is. Is that like Christmas week and Thanksgiving, or do you apply for like a license after a party or something?
I would say that would be more for like the Williamstown Fair. Let's just say, where they have,
that makes sense.
Bags and bags of recyclable cans.
Well,
Which we hope go to recycling, not go to waste.
I was thinking about that. Sorry, Crystal, as you were speaking, I was thinking about special events. Usually a special event, and I was thinking Williamstown Fair as well, usually they make arrangements to deal with their waste, right? Whether they make a deal with, now Coco used to be Crookshank, or something. So usually that's an aside. I don't think that's really a huge consideration for this.
Okay.
Similar to the group homes, like you say, if usually they'd be procuring services for their excess anyway. So I think you're really the main ones here would be special needs, large families would have to be considered, and then your ag sector. I think those are your 3 primaries to my mind.
I mean, in terms of the large family one, like, so when it was in like being covered in the news that we were discussing, lowering the bag limit, I did have a couple large families reach out to me. And so they were families, multi-generational. So it's not just necessarily that, it's 2 parents and a whole whack of kids, but that it was more multi-generational. So like they had like 9 people in the household. And so, I think almost all of them were adults. So I think it was 7 adults and 2 kids. So like in that case, like to me, that sounded, I guess the way I was looking at it is I wouldn't want to penalize folks who are in a multi-generational setup or folks who do have large families. Housing is challenging as it is in terms of affordability of housing, in terms of what other options there are that are affordable. I wouldn't want to penalize anyone who's who's trying to make it work, with what's there. So I don't know. I was thinking 9, but
I think we're just overall being too lenient. I mean, as one person, I have 1 tiny little bag every week. So 10 tiny little bags will still fit into 4 bigger garbage bags. But I think regardless the size of the family, regardless who they are, I think the efforts really should still be made. And I don't think we should be too lenient on all these other businesses and agriculture and like seriously, I think people should really actually try their best. They would realize how much waste they actually have and how much waste they can actually like what they can do. It'll make people think. And I don't I think that we shouldn't fully exempt them from things. And I think that they should kind of be like, okay, we got to start thinking about this. Like if I have one small bag a week for one person, they can do that per person in their house too.
Agricultural plastics and stuff can't really be changed. There's a lot of innovation coming in the sector, but you can't avoid it at this point if you want to keep a healthy herd of cows.
Like I've driven by some too though and they don't seem to have more than like 8. Like it doesn't seem like it's a whole like end of the driveway full of stuff. Like it doesn't seem excessive. Like 8 seemed ideal for them.
It depends on the farm for sure. Some of them are using long plastic bags and bins instead of towers. So they do have to be taken care of properly.
And I know that like some horse farms and stuff, like they'll I know that they only have, there's one in Lancaster and they've got tons of horses and they try their best to reuse things. And I mean, they make the effort so they have minimal waste. So I think it's time that everybody kind of, I mean, it's that time where people have to consider and what their waste is. But no, I do see, Aiden, that there is like some things they don't have options for, but reusing things. And again, driving around this county numerous times on like garbage days, and I don't see like a huge amount anyways.
Yep.
No, I think you're right. I mean, Angie, like the majority are not. Okay, go ahead, Colleen, sorry.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with Angie. And in terms of, and I'm not trying to be insensitive, but the families with special needs, I have an adult sister with special needs, and my parents don't have that much more garbage because of her. And I mean, I guess it depends on the special needs, but there's diapers there and all that stuff. And same with large families. I mean, I had a few kids in diapers at the same time, and where I was living at the time, there was a bag limit and it wasn't an issue. So I don't know where you draw the line on that, I guess,
But do you think the 2, like I'm always thinking like the end of the line, the 2 bag. I'm not really thinking so much about what do we need for the 4 right now. I'm thinking more like getting people to the 2. But like in terms of those categories and reaching the 2, do you think that is reasonable, or do you think, like I was thinking maybe like those ones like a 4 would make more sense.
But I guess it depends on the size of the garbage bags too, right? Like,
True.
is there a limit on the size of the bag? Like, I think that's going to make a big difference.
Can't be more than 60 pounds, I don't think, which is a lot. Like,
yeah,
that's a lot. Bag. That's heavy.
We're giving them time to think about it and to like, okay, now we're going to have to think about how we're going to, people need to start thinking about this if they're not already thinking about it. I mean, yeah, it's we're if all the other municipalities around us have it, then I don't see, I know people are going to complain. They complain no matter what there is and where you are, but you're giving them, we're not going down to 2 right away, going down to 4, then they're going to have to think about it. See, like, maybe have some educational things, outreach things, resources for them, something, but it's going to have to happen.
But I think to your point about what the other folks are doing, I do think other regions, I mean, the other municipalities do have some exemption programs too, though. Do they not?
When I lived in South Stormont, I never heard about one.
I'm not aware of it.
Saying no.
No, I've never heard of it here.
Does North Glengarry exempt agriculture, Mike?
Not to my knowledge.
I saw Chris LeBlanc pop on there for a moment. Sorry, Chris, did you want to add something?
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. Just keep in mind, the bag limits, I think, are a great thing. But when the bags are too heavy, the companies will not pick them up. Just a thought, just to add my 2 cents there.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, they did
somebody-
that in Belleville when I lived there. And because I was in college, we would just shove everything in. We'd rip bag tags in two. We try to do everything we could, right? At that point, I wasn't an environmental student, but they would leave it behind and we learned our lesson. Like we just didn't do it again. So
If you've got somebody shoving, cat litter into a 60-liter bin liner and determined to fill up an entire bag of cat litter, there's going to be a bit of a problem.
especially if it's clumping.
I think,
It does happen.
It's
yeah.
flushable. So
Sorry, the other thing I was going to mention about the bag limit, obviously there's going to be feedback about it over the year. If this starts in January, and continues to decline in June, based on feedback from the community, the council may decide to bump that December mark just a bit to give people a bit of a reprieve. There is that obviously opportunity. I don't know if everybody's looking to be super solid on the dates that are proposed. I applaud it. I think it may be a little aggressive for some people, because it is obviously you're reducing to 25% of what they were previously allowed, and I'm going to say probably less than 10% of the population that this is really going to affect. That's a guess on my part, but again, go back to the bag tags. If they really want to throw stuff out, they have the option. They're just going to pay a couple extra bucks for it. And I expect you're probably in the neighborhood of like $2 a tag, something in that neighborhood, maybe $2.25. My recollection about 10 years ago, I think they were doing them at like $1.25, $1.50. And just the cost of try and I guess use it to educate people on the cost of a landfill, because really that's what this comes down to, right? Is preserving landfill space. So, if they want to take up that space, they need to pay for it.
So I don't know, am I hearing, correct me if what I'm hearing is wrong. So folks are sort of more on the end of like exemptions should really be at a minimum, and maybe it's more on a sort of like there's sort of these categories, but it's more, I don't want to say case by case, but it's sort of more as people request it, that when people request that they can't that they're not meeting it. Like, so because with the 4, I'm guessing people are thinking there's not going to be people asking for an exemption to the 4. Is that?
I would hope not. You got to have some really sound reasoning for that.
I'm sure you'll get some. I mean, you'll get some for anything, really.
Well, no, but I mean, I think sort of.
People will probably do it as a protest too.
Maybe.
I'm just feeling defeated these days.
No.
Don't give anyone ideas, Angie.
Yeah, no.
Anyways.
But yeah. So I mean, no, I mean, I definitely hear, in terms of we want folks to make their best effort. Absolutely. And I think this is about when they can't, if their best efforts won't meet it. Sorry, go ahead, Colleen.
Sorry, is there anything in the RFP about going down to blue box pickup once a week? Did I miss that? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so that's what we're hoping is that, assuming we're able to afford that weekly pickup. I mean, I think that's really the dream there, is that we do have the weekly recycling pickup for everything, that would make a big help in terms of helping divert waste. Yeah. Okay, so does that, for now, Crystal, do you think that's enough, or do you think on that one we need to?
No, I think everybody makes a fair point, and I think we've captured. We want to encourage people to stick to the limit, and exemptions should be at a minimum.
Yeah. Okay. And then I think about to Mike's comment there about engaging the GFA, that probably makes a lot of sense because, maybe they could, to Aiden's point about having no rules, maybe they could help us guide us on what some rules might make sense so that there are some. And maybe through that discussion, we might learn some interesting things. Like I know, like, when it comes to the plastics, that like some areas are trying to have these trying to collect some of that plastic and, deal with it. Maybe there should be some interesting discussions out of that. Okay, so then that brings us to the actual bag tag discussion. Like, what do we recommend in terms of how that be done? I'll start. I'll say my vision, very draft like, is that there's not the bag tags in the base case. The bag tags are only if you need more than your 2, so that like the folks who are picking up the waste, they know everybody gets 2. And that you can get, extra. And so, for example, these perhaps minimum exemption folks, they would be provided with a certain number of additional bag tags. I think I would also think like to start, there'd be sort of everyone kind of gets some additional bag tags to try and help with those, like the transition, like, when we're thinking about Christmas and other big events of the year where you might want to have, it makes sense for, spring cleanup where people might want to have that extra bag tag handy. And I think I'd thrown out like it should go out with the waste calendar, but I think some other folks are saying that it's much better if it goes out with like your property tax bill, that it would sort of like come with your property tax bill and then your extra tags, and then that would sort of be linked like to folks who have potential exemptions. That would already be sort of like linked to their file. And then there'd be an issue of like how much additional ones would cost. So I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not saying there's no decisions about that. So what are folks' ideas on this one?
I think you're pretty much spot on with to me, the tax bill makes the most sense. You can play with the numbers, whether you do an extra 5 a year, 10 a year. I mean, you can, especially to start, you can give everybody, say, 5 tags in their tax bill. So it takes care of that Thanksgiving, Christmas, when they have a couple extra bags. If they're in the category where they need an exemption or they feel that they've, got some sort of a situation that should exclude them from this, then, that's obviously a discussion. They can easily buy them at the counter. I'm just looking at the current levels of service table, and I see the range goes from $3 to $1.25 for 3 different municipalities. I think one's 3, one's 150, one's 125. So, I think a 225 is not misplaced. I think that would be reasonable. Those ones that are at 125 and 150 just really haven't brought up their pricing as they should have. So yeah, I think to start off, give people some extra tags. It's going to make everybody a little more comfortable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who wants to go next?
I'll
I'm
back
just
up
curious
Mike's point
that,
there.
sorry. Sorry, I was gonna say, I'm just curious if I might have missed it somewhere. The bag tag money, does it go somewhere directly, or is it just kind of goes to the township?
Oh, I don't think that hasn't come up about where those funds could potentially go, or I mean, I would assume it goes to the township in one way, but I'm assuming you mean like direct it to a specific program.
Well, I was thinking maybe towards some kind of sustainable fund or something, or if it's going towards landfill, something, or I don't know. I'm just curious. But I mean, if it's not been discussed, then that's okay. I'm just wondering if something has been discussed.
No, it hasn't. I mean, that's interesting.
I know other townships, municipalities do that with like environmental fines and that kind of stuff. It goes towards like a sustainability or something for residents.
Yeah, I mean, typically these days, like, the revenues that are brought in to a specific, because of a specific department, generally, like when we look at the budgeting, over the year, it's like those are the expenses of the department and these are the revenues that they bring in. We sort of look at it in that way. But so sort of the natural order of things would be that these fees would stay within waste, like the waste
Yeah.
collection budget. But to
Yeah.
your point, I mean, there's nothing that says it can't be sort of said, that you target it more specifically, saying, all the bag tag fees go to something very, that could be interesting from an education standpoint as well. There could be, communication piece around that, like, this is how many bag tags are sold. This is that money's, I don't know. It's a cool idea though. I think definitely it should be, I think, in the things that we mentioned to bring forward.
I'll look
Aidan,
into
you
what
were gonna
others
say
are doing.
I was just going to say I'll back Mike on that point. Said it was with a lot of confidence there, so I believe him.
Thanks, Aiden.
Colleen,
Would the money not just go towards paying the additional cost of extra bags? Like at the, I
If it's, I don't know, I think that'd be, I don't know, I'm not good at finances, so maybe I won't say anything, but I think that would be more than what would be needed, but I don't know. I'm not a person.
I was going to say, I think you would find you wouldn't have a massive amount of revenue from bag tags. I mean, you might end up with a couple of grand. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's, tens of thousands of dollars, but I really doubt it. I'd say you're probably.
I don't think we want to be spent. We don't want to make lots. It's one of these things where we don't want to make a lot of money.
No, absolutely not. And I think you're just for what it's going to be. I think you're probably just going to leave it as revenue into the waste management side of the ledger.
Yeah. How about in terms of, so if they like certain ones, like a certain number, 5 or 10, I think maybe to start like 10 might make, it does sound like a lot to start, and I would, excuse me, like I'm assuming these are a yearly thing, right? Like, so you have like your 2018 tags, your 2019 tags, so you don't necessarily have accumulation of all these tags from the past. I don't know if that's,
yeah, from what
I don't know if that
I've
really
seen,
matters.
it's color coded, right? So it's a certain color one year, another color the next year. So if you don't use them, you lose them. It's not something you're compounding.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Aidan?
I was just laughing, just having a stash of bag tags left over from the year before.
No, there's a black market on bag tags.
It probably will
Really,
be.
what happens is at Christmas, you have to gift them away to somebody if you haven't used them and you don't think you're going to use them between Christmas and
You wrap them up and you give them to somebody. Merry Christmas. Bag tags. Now, like I think they should be like, obviously the township office is the most logical place to have them. But I see some of these folks, other municipalities have them sort of at this, the places where, in the past we would have sold like dog tags as well too. That might make it a little bit easier for people.
Yeah, that would have been my only additional comment, would just be to make sure that they're available at other places as well, not just the township office, because if people work from 8 to 4 and they can't get there, then have them at corner stores.
Yeah. Belleville had them at their stores as well too, where their bus passes and all that kind of stuff, where they could buy it.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, good point. So container size, unless anyone else wanted to add something on the tags. in terms of fee, I don't think, sounds like the range between the ranges that are already out there. There's no one has any, those kind of make sense.
And you're not looking to make it punitive, right? It's just it's a fee to cover service. That's all, right? I imagine Lachlan can work out an exact number somewhere there.
$2.29 or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how about now container size? Do we have, Crystal, can we provide much input on container size, or is that sort of already been kind of locked down in the RFP or sort of the standards of the industry?
That's right. It's a bit unknown right now what we're going to be able to do in terms of container size, but it's something that has been discussed before, certainly within administration on people having the really large containers for their garbage or recycling, but they're not approved right now by our collection company. So, it's on there to really get input from the committee. And it's our hope that we can, find a solution to some of the complaints that we get regularly. When I find a lot of people that come from Montreal or Ottawa are used to having these big containers, and then they come here and we don't accept them. So it's hard to know how that will kind of proceed, but certainly the input from the Environment Committee is welcome.
Did anyone read the current level of service for, I'll just read it out here. Container with capacity not larger than 30 gallons, not higher than 71 centimeters, 28 inches. Seems a little low. Diameter no bigger than 45.7 centimeters, 18 inches. Also seems a little small. Watertight lid and 2 handles. Plastic bag with capacity not more than 0.09 cubic meters and made from a minimum of 1.5 mil gauge material that can hold 27 kilograms, 60 pounds of material without tearing. That's incredibly specific.
It is. And I'm Googling 30 gallons right now.
Watertight lid.
Well, think about a 45-gallon drum.
Yeah.
So this is like our garbage containers for the end of our driveway.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not changing my aluminum one that's like 50 years old, because then that would be more waste. I'm reusing it, although the lid doesn't fit. But
if you have a standard aluminum one, from my understanding, you're within those sizes.
all right, because it's still good. They don't make them like they used to.
Yeah. No. I don't want you to have to get a new one. I'm trying to. I have this feeling that the one I use might be actually slightly larger than 30 gallons, but they haven't. I haven't been rejected.
I think a lot of the garbage cans you buy at the hardware store, like the plastic ones they have now, would actually be bigger than 30 gallons, and I think most of them would exceed those numbers, like 28 inches high and 18 inches wide. That's not much. But just another note here, all the other municipalities are at a maximum of 50 pounds. South is the only one that's at 60.
Good
So
point.
I wouldn't expect that would change. If anything, it would go down a little bit, but I mean, if it's going out in the RFP, I don't imagine anybody's going to really look at that overly much.
I mean, I travel a lot, right? So a lot of my points of reference are travel bags, and like 50-pound bags are generally the maximum, and those are really heavy. So I would say that, I mean, I don't know where the 60 comes from, but to me 50 seems a lot. And I'm trying to think of, are there bags out there that really well hold 60 bags well without tearing? I don't know. 60 pounds sounds like a lot.
It's the kind of plastic that's never going to break down, but yes.
Yeah, that's another good point. I have a feeling that mine are 40 gallons actually. It's like the beige ones that have they're round and beige and they have a wheel. They have little wheels. But yeah, I mean, I would say that the measurements that they're describing there sound quite small. They sound small to what people typically put out. But I mean, I think in my mind, when I think bags, I'm thinking like a black garbage bag. Again, I know there's variety in that size, but I'm thinking like the large garbage bag, of that size, which fits into these containers that we're talking about. But we don't say it has to be in a plastic bag, right? Like it can just be it could be in a container with a lid loose, from what I'm reading here, or it can be in a bag.
It would seem so, yeah.
I think with COVID that's changed. I don't think they're accepting loose garbage right now. So are you reading that on our RFP? Or
No,
on
it's in the like level of service that was
Okay.
attached.
Okay, perfect.
So it does say unacceptable materials. It does say loose garbage, but to me, that would be like just pile of stuff at the side of the road, right? I mean, if it's in a can, it's containerized. They're not touching it. I think they're dumping it. But if they provided guidance on that, then they provided guidance on that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think mine, I'm pretty sure mine's a 40 gallon. But I mean, how much, like, I mean, again, I think we want it to be reasonable, but we want it also to encourage people to reduce. So
I think anybody getting a new garbage can would be very counterproductive to this whole.
Yes.
that's a great.
I just want to point out, Madam Councillor, that you're admitting that you're contravening the rules in a public meeting.
I know, you're gonna tell you're gonna go label my garbage. Say, do not take this. It's clearly in contravention. Well, I didn't realize it till now. What am I gonna do? But yeah, no, to Aiden's point, like, I don't think we want, but I think, yeah, because I mean, these are not the details that are gonna drive like the change in behavior, right? Like, I mean, it would be helpful, I think, to have guidance so that when someone goes out and buys a new garbage can, that they have some idea of what's reasonable. But I mean, I grew up in where you had like the really large kind of squarish ones that are on wheels that the garbage trucks, pick up with arms. And this was in a very rural area as well. So I'm like, that's like the other end of the spectrum, but that's completely off the table, right? Like that kind of size for what we could do, as far as I understand. Am I right on that, Crystal? Like, we're definitely not.
My understanding is that I don't want to say something that might not be accurate, but it is a cost thing for to add the attachment to the vehicle or to the garbage trucks. So it's always been something I think that we've run into in the past historically. Maybe Chris can speak to it a little bit more, but my understanding is they're either not willing to offer the arm service, is what I'll call it, but yeah, but that could change once we put the RFP out and we get bids. Depending on who bids, maybe there's an opportunity out there.
Yeah, because I mean, I would say with those big guys, like that's like, in my mind, again, my black garbage bag that I consider standard, you put 2 in there. Like that's basically like one of those ones, because they're like 70 gallons, which is, more than double of this 30 gallons that we're discussing.
I think you would find that for that type of service, the contractor would be literally changing out their entire fleet of vehicles.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the major stopping point around here. There's no other municipality that I know of in this area that does it. So none of the contractors have that equipment that I'm aware of. And that's, it just, you think about that with, I think people with long country lanes, they're probably driving their garbage down. Those things are actually going to be too big for a lot of people to handle, right?
Yeah, they're pretty big. I mean, yeah. Again, I mean, certainly when I'm thinking these, I'm thinking black standard bags. Right? I'm not thinking the small white kitchen bags. Like that's, to me, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about 2 of the black ones. So I mean, I don't know if. I mean, I think might maybe make sense. Just say like a container with a capacity of 30 gallons, but not necessarily like give all that extra detail. Like, do we want it with the lid? Like, is COVID or not, like putting COVID aside?
On there, the plastic bags are accepted too, right? It's 2 bullet points. You have a container and then you have bags. So it's not that it has to be in a container.
Correct.
They're just saying each bag is a 60-pound limit. So I mean, if you can manage to get 2 or 3 of those in a container, then you got a lot of weight. But presumably they're taking those out individually and throwing them in the truck.
But I mean, For the purpose of this discussion though, does it do we, it can be both. There's nothing for the future, there's no advantage to saying it has to be in a plastic bag versus being in a container. There's no.
Not unless you go the route of clear plastic to encourage the recycling. If you're going to audit people, that would be to me, that would be the only change you'd be making.
Mm-hmm. But I guess I was looking at it from a standpoint of loose garbage in a container that they're emptying versus a bag that they're throwing. Because it sounds like in non-COVID times that container could have loose garbage in it. But I don't. Doesn't really matter. We're just. Unless Crystal or Chris, if you say this is our important point somehow from the RFP perspective, then I would suggest. What's interesting? So I just did the math. That 0.09 cubic meter plastic bag, it's got a capacity of 20 gallons. So you have the container of 30 gallons or the plastic bag of 20 gallons. I don't know. Maybe this should just be the same. I don't know. But I think personally, I think a 50-pound limit makes more sense. And maybe not quite so, we don't need to be quite so prescriptive on the sizes of it, maybe. I mean, if something's more, I think maybe this is something that once you get your RFP back and you know what the provider has in terms of what would make it better, maybe that's something that we can talk about then. I don't know.
We are trying to make it.
Sorry, go ahead, Crystal.
No, sorry, Mike. I was just going to say we're trying to make it as simple and not so cumbersome for people to bid. We really don't want to deter people from bidding because it's just too complicated. So that's really what the last, I would say, month has been, is fine tuning this RFP so that it's not too difficult for companies to bid on it. So.
No. Okay. Well,
your 60 versus your 50, it comes down to a health and safety thing for your contractor, for your provider, right? It's whatever they spec for the individual as far as that job, what they need to be able to lift and what they need to be able to do as a repetitive motion.
Yeah. I think changing it that's an easy change. If everybody's in agreement with that, I can certainly edit or make that change, especially to the container size if that's the direction of the committee.
I don't know that it's the size. I think it might be the weight. To me, that would be the only change.
Yeah. Okay. The weight. Perfect.
Yeah. I'd say weight. And also, I think the overall size makes sense, but I think being so prescriptive that it has to be this tall or this narrow, I think that's, unless you come back and say for the garbage folks, no, it has to be like this. I would say that stuff's not important.
If we issue it and they want clarity, we just issue an addendum. If we issue it without those details and keep it simple to 50 pounds, in a reasonable size container, if they want more information, we'll issue an addendum to it.
Yeah, okay. Anyone else want to make any more comments on bags? No. Or container size. The next one was communication rollout plan, but maybe if you don't mind, if we could just jump, we'll come back to that at the end, and then we'll go to the before last topic, which was innovative waste diversion ideas, because I think that's really important to talk about, to support what we're trying to do here. What are the things that we could have that support the program to ensure that people have an easier time to to reach the lower limits. So a couple of things that we kind of throw out just for discussion was what do we organic waste or yard waste? Do we want to talk about that? Do something specific with that? A recycling depot. That's not on the list, but it's if you miss recycling, which if I miss recycling, I'm almost in tears because I have so much recycling. It's is there somewhere I could bring it so that, I don't have it accumulating in my front hallway until the next time? So those are some items. Also we talked about Recycle Coach. Maybe that's an app that we could try and implement more, so to help people, understand, those who are familiar with Recycle Coach, they know that it can give you prompts helps you understand what's recyclable, what's not, and give you prompts like today's your week for this, or don't forget Hazardous Waste Days is now. Those are different ideas. So I just wanted to list a few, and then what people want to talk about, go ahead.
Has anyone ever figured out the cost on Recycle Coach?
If you give me 2 seconds, I'll pull it up.
Okay. The first point, the organic, the yard waste, in current service, you've got it twice a year. You've got it spring and fall. There's backyard composting. There's the machines for some people now, obviously. To me, I think a portion of this at least is in the communication plan, because people need more education on this, especially if it comes back that there's, complaints about the bag limits. People need information. They need to be educated. If they think that they're just throwing everything in a bag and putting it at the end of the driveway and it's disappearing, there needs to be some more education, because that's not how it's going to work anymore.
But I think, so we've had leaf and yard waste twice a year. It was like an additional service that we kind of paid separately for. But I'm not sure how it works like other times of the year. Do we have somewhere that you can bring leaf and yard waste to the landfill site if outside those times of years?
I believe you can take yard waste. Chris just popped on. He'll be able to answer this better, I'm sure.
Okay, great.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yes, you can bring it to the disposal sites, both of North Lancaster when it's open and Beaverbrook. We will take leaf and yard waste at that location. Also, we will take, if you have recycling left over, we have bins at the landfill site that we put recycling in.
Yeah, I did not know that all this time.
Only
always been like that?
Yes, just only when it's open, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And when is it, I know that we alternate for the times of year, what are the hours again on the landfill?
9 to 5. So right now we're at North Lancaster landfill, and it's in operation on Thursdays and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And
Chris,
yes, go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to ask, the leaf and yard, is it being composted at the landfills, or is it just
Right
disposed?
now it's just disposed.
Okay.
So what does that mean? It just ends up going in the landfill?
Yeah, we'll use it as cover, not final cover, but we will use it as cover.
Okay. Do we get enough of it to do what you need to do with it?
Not typically, no.
Okay. Because, that's interesting. I mean, again, I'm on this committee and I didn't even realize that there was recycling bins at the landfill. So that probably, to Mike's point about communication, probably there's some more information that could be. But because that was another thing that folks reached out to me about this, is they have concerns about their yard waste, like folks who are in the hamlets who don't necessarily have room to do a lot of composting on their property and have a lot of leaf and yard waste, who want to be able to bring it somewhere. So you're saying, as it stands, they can bring it basically any time of the year that they're, depending on the schedule, they could bring it to one of the landfills once a week, basically during open hours.
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
And does it have to be brought in a specific way, or does it have to be in bags, paper bags, loose?
No, a lot of people bring it. A lot of people bring it just on trailers sometimes, and they just dump it off.
Okay.
I have a specific location at the landfills with brush. Typically, the brush is from the roads crew most of the year. The odd time, residents will bring their brush and we'll put it in a pile.
Okay, but someone could add their leaf and yard waste to that, if that would also be acceptable for that.
I don't usually have it in the same pile, but it's the close proximity.
Okay. Do you have to be registered to do that?
Usually people are registered when they bring material to the landfill site. Typically leaf and yard waste, we don't usually charge for that in the past.
But you would need to be registered.
I would like to see, my personal opinion, I'd like to see it, if people be registered, yes.
And
This time-
because you're
this
concerned that
time-
the rationale with registering is what exactly?
Well, to see who's in and out of our landfill sites and who's using it and that kind of thing. Because I really don't want it from people from other municipalities coming to drop off their leaf and yard waste.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Go ahead, Mike.
a point to that, Chris. In North, taxpayers, residents are allowed 2 cubic meters each per year. And there's always a list. There's literally a book at the landfill that is all the addresses. I guess it would be like the voter list essentially. And so it's accounted for on that. So if they come in with a trailer full or a truck full, it's considered basically 1 cubic meter. And unless it's obviously a massive dump trailer, that would probably be the 2 cubic meters right there. But that might be something for South to consider as well with this change in bag limits. If somebody's doing a, say a home renovation project, say they're doing a bathroom or a kitchen or something, right? It's not enough to have a dumpster, but it's not the kind of stuff that they're going to be able to put in their curbside. There's obviously it sounds like a bit of a free fall for all of the landfills at this point, but again, this all comes down to volume at the landfills, right? And very much to Chris's point, you should not have residents or non-residents rather, making use of those landfills. They should be having them in their own municipalities, and that's where their waste should be going, because this is going to be a massive, massive expense to replace either of these.
Mm-hmm. But your 2 cubic meter exemption or allotment, you're saying that's for organic matter or that's for anything?
No, this is just anything. This is just anything.
Okay.
So it's technically, construction materials are not allowed because contractors used to go in and dump trailers at the end of every day kind of thing, roof tiles or shingles, whatever. So this is just, if you're a homeowner and you've got some drywall that needs to go somewhere, it can go, but you're not doing it every week. You're not doing it every day.
Right. But we have our free dump days, right, Chris? We have, is it one? It's one free dump day a year?
At Beaverbrook, it's usually 2 dump days a year, like a 1 week type of deal, and North Lancaster as well.
Okay. So I guess that's kind of how, but so that we're not really limited. We're not limiting people, but again, they have to be quote unquote registered, right?
That's correct.
So just thinking out loud, like, again, I don't want to discourage people, particularly when it comes potentially for organic matter, where it sounds like you can use it. And also it's really like, maybe at some future point, we would actually be making more value out of that composting material or, organic matter. Like, do we have to, like, could people just be showing their driver's license? Like, if the concern is just to make sure they're from our municipality, is there, what's the added benefit of them having quote unquote registered as opposed, because there's an attendant, right? Like, if they can just check people's driver's licenses or, proof of address.
Right. Typically for me to register at the office. So if there is a fee, they pay the fee right at the office. Leaf and yard waste, there would be I don't see them charging a fee for that. But typically garbage, if they were to register at the office and pay at the office, it'd be like your tag system, same idea. They do receive tags when they come, and then the attendant just has to jot down the number. Right now the attendant's taking cash and whatnot, and I don't believe that system. I don't think is a good system personally, especially with paying e-transfer and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure, I can see, but I guess I just I want to make it. My vision is that it's as easy for people as possible, right? Like it's like, oh, I have this construction. Particularly, when people have concerns that there's going to be illegal dumping based on what's going to be like the changes to the bag limits. Like, how do we make it as easy as possible for the person to, rather than throw it off, where they shouldn't, to just go to the landfill. It's a simple process. It's not like you have to plan to go to the office during business hours and then go to the landfill on the weekend. That it's sort of how to make it as simple as possible. And also for those where there is no fee, like if it's just leaf and yard compost, or just again, how to make it easy. It's free. You show up. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm speaking, I don't know the operations, right? So maybe what I think is easy and simple is not, but, I'd like that, ideally someone, if it's a free, like, or recycling, it's just, here's my driver's license, I'm dropping off what I
Just
can.
make a comment about behaviors. Earlier this year in Cornwall, we were looking at behaviors for like bag limits and dumping and whatnot. And the studies show that there actually isn't more dumping. It's just that people are more inclined to look for that dumping. So it's realized more. Of course, there's still going to be people. It's probably going to be the same people that are dumping things anyways. Sorry, just a little side note on behaviors. And I saw Lee's hand up as well too, Stephanie, if you didn't.
Thanks. I didn't see that.
Permission to speak?
Yeah, go ahead, Lee. Go ahead.
All right. So we just did a cleanup of the shoreline along the River Institute. And so people were creatively finding places to put like large garbage, copper wire, things of that nature. If I can make a big suggestion, there should be some kind of bridge program so that people, instead of trying to make their own solutions, there's an awareness that there's another solution. So worst case scenario, please drop it off at these locations per se. Like, can you drop it off? Make sure, like, if you're going to be communicating, right now is the best time to let people know what their alternatives are, so that when their friends decide that they want to go and drop something off in the bush, somebody could say, hey, I heard about these other places. I know it's midnight, it's inconvenient for you, you're moving into a new house, or whatever the case is, nothing's open, but please use these locations to drop that garbage off. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have to add. I will go back to being muted.
Thanks. No, thank you. Go ahead, Colleen.
Sorry, I do apologize. I sent a quick email before this meeting. I have to sneak out.
Sorry.
No problem. So I will see you guys next time.
Okay, if there's anything, don't be shy and share by email any other items.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, to Lee's point, it's like, what can we do that will encourage people to make the right choices versus one other item I wanted to mention on the composting is, like, so, we do have this option. People can go to the landfill now to bring their organics, but and we got the food cycler option that we're probably, the pilot's going well. There's a good chance it will be expanded. But then what about, I'm thinking something for those who are sort of in between, folks who have yards who generate a lot more compost waste than what uses in the food cycler. Like, I know at one time in the past, the municipality, we sort of offered backyard composters sort of at cost. But I'm thinking, like, maybe we should look at that more seriously and sort of look at, like the food cycler is an excellent unit in its category. Maybe we could look at a excellent backyard composter and also have some sort of program where folks who need that larger size and have the space that they could, take advantage of something like that. Because there are some pretty nice, ones that you can turn, different things out there that maybe if the municipality got involved, we could offer something at a better price, again, to drive that diversion. One we haven't talked about, like the free depot in Cornwall. I guess they've had some success there with that, where they can drop off furniture and whatnot, stuff that's still in good shape, but folks would sometimes just bring to the landfill. I don't know if that's something we think we might need as part of this discussion. Sorry, Chris, what did you want to add?
Just we do have like a trailer for that purpose. It's not used very often, but there is a trailer at the landfill site for that purpose, especially Beaverbrook. Beaverbrook for sure has one. It's not used very often, but there is one there.
I think
I
it
had-
would be a good idea for promoting that, like to do it more like a free store or something. Like maybe Dave, when we speak with him, he'll have some ideas on that, and maybe Emma, the communications person there too, who promotes it all the time. But like things like, oh, there are the free groups online and stuff. But as much as I don't like going on Facebook, I'd rather just go to a spot instead of flipping through the, online. Oh, free, this is free. Oh, I missed it. I think it would be good to have something like that, especially for the people who don't, are part of these kind of groups for free stuff, but make it accessible for those who can't really access, the one location or something. Like maybe have a couple of them, or a township. I'm not sure, but just ideas.
Thanks.
I think it's
Aidan, go
going to
ahead.
be, I think it'd be really hard to compete with Facebook. The free giveaway.
Well, it would be like open like certain hours for free stuff, but I think Cornwall does really well with it. I know there's a lot of things there right now, though. People haven't been picking up, but I also think it's accessibility, having to get that. Lee would probably have a better insight on those things than I do, being he's a resident in Cornwall. He does cycle a lot. But to have, I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of older people here that don't use those Facebook things, but yes, Aiden, it's hard to compete with Facebook these days.
It is. I mean, I'm a very frequent user of the Buy Nothing South Glengarry Facebook group, which
I'm always
I
on
think I
there
said-
too late and I miss out on everything. So
I know I hear. I like to, when I put stuff up, I like to let them simmer a bit so more people get to see them. But yeah, they've done a fantastic job in reducing in reducing waste and improving upcycling. So shout out to Maggie Catnaugh, who started that.
do you mind if I ask Lee what he thinks of a free store?
Sure, why not?
1 second.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. Just got to go into a little cubby hole here. So from what I've seen, the Free Store has done a very good job. People are redirecting themselves. There are little community groups that have like cycles of like trailers, like community neighborhoods. I'm going down to, do you want to put your stuff into my trailer? I've seen good responses. The mechanisms behind it, I don't know. But as far as like a community observational point, it seems to be tracking very, very well in terms of its function and purpose for the community.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we can get some insight on from Dave then when he presents. Thanks, Lee.
No, yeah, thank you. Any other innovative waste or diversion ideas folks wanted to bring up at this point?
Well, there's a circular economy, right? Like we're trying to like what we've been discussing and whatnot. But yeah, I think pretty much seeing what other municipalities are doing, since like, we're so far behind, and other municipalities been doing this for, decades and whatnot, like Kingston and stuff. So I don't know, maybe if we can all have a little homework and each of us looks at a municipality and see what they're doing, that might be able to help with this.
Yeah, and I mean this is like it's always happening, right? We should always be trying to think about how to. It's not just about this one specific moment in time. So I think we might, in terms of communication plan. I mean, I think
Lee's
a lot of
got
what
his
we've been
hand up
saying.
again, sorry.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Lee.
My apologies. Really quickly, circular economy. Kelly Bergeron's got a good lead on that activity in our area. So if you're looking for somebody to have a conversation about circular economy, Kelly Bergeron would be the person I would direct you to.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thanks.
I know Kelly. We'll reach out to her. So on point of communication plan, which is sort of like the end of our discussion today. So thanks everyone for hanging in there. It's a longer meeting. But like, and a lot of what I think we've touched on many points, I think, through the discussion, but I think it's really in terms of like quite a bit of information many times well in advance, so that people are not surprised and sort of the anticipating of the questions that are going to be coming up. So certainly like the timelines, and again, that, sort of, but I mean, I think a lot of what needs to go in that communication plan maybe is not already fleshed out, because some of it will relate back to what's in the RFP. But I mean, there is stuff that I think already we know needs to be in there. Like there needs to be more information about what people can bring to the landfill, what is can be done for free, what has cost, sort of highlight those things that I think people would, don't know about.
And lots of teasers too leading up to it, like it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. So, they're getting prepared for it, like Cornwall with their water meters, like coming. So they get all their, anchor or whatever out or whatever they need to do. And then when it comes to it, then they'll be a little more prepared. Just my point.
Mike, any insights?
I'm just thinking, I'm a big fan of spaced repetition, especially for stuff like this. And I mean, it's basically to your point, you've already said it. Obviously, social media is essentially free other than the staff time to do it. Newspaper posts are, maybe a once a month thing or something, just to repeat and, change, update whatever info is missing as things roll out. Just again, to cover your demographics, because obviously not everybody's on social media. There's gonna have to be some mail outs presumably once the new contract comes into play, because there will probably be some changes. There'll be some schedule differences, so you have that opportunity to get the word out as well. So I think you've got a few mechanisms, and they all just need to be taken advantage of at the right time and repeatedly.
Any? Aidan, did you have any points you wanted to add on that, or?
Sorry, you cut out there. No, I have nothing to add to that. Sorry.
Okay. One thing, and I don't know if this is because we were very focused on waste, right? Like when it comes to recycling, like big containers with lids so the recycling doesn't blow away. I don't know if that's a separate discussion to have in the future, but I know that the little picture of the recycling bin that I think has been shown, like on what's like a suggested container, like it's like the worst. It's like a banker's box size, and it's not very good. It doesn't hold a lot, so.
It would be. It's always been a bit of a frustration point for me, but people need to be conscientious when they're actually putting their stuff in the bin, right? A lot of people, it's like, oh, it's at the end of my driveway, it's not my problem anymore. But they put it out and it's, there's a storm coming or the wind is picking up or something, and we end up with stuff all over the damn place, where if you spend 30 seconds, you can actually pack stuff in there so it's not going to blow away. That's, I think, for the most part, going to be an individual thing. I'd love to educate everybody on that one, but it's, I think, maybe not quite as simple as just that.
Mm-hmm. Chris, what did you want to add on that?
Just to add, maybe clear bags. I go around a lot and I see a lot of clear bags. It seems to work. Bags are recyclable also, just the clear ones. Maybe that's the answer instead of the blue bins.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but that's probably something that will need to be discussed with the MRF, right? Because I know that when we had our tour of the MRF, they didn't mind paper or shredded paper in bags, but they weren't a fan of stuff put in bags because they had to rip them open. So to do the sorting. So I don't know, but that's probably something to consider, like as we move forward. Because bags work too. I mean, again, I grew up with the big bins that had like the lid that's on a hinge, right? So nothing blows out of that. But to your point, Mike, they're huge and heavy. And okay. So trying to. Oh, hi.
Sorry, I'm back in. I've been kicked off for a while.
Oh no! I did not realize.
I missed about 20 minutes. Sorry about that. No, internet fault, not yours. But in reference to the bags, I have mentioned that to the city, which is our MRF, before, about putting stuff in the bags, and they're kind of the opinion that, it might be a pain in the butt for them, but it gets people recycling, and it gets the product to them. So, I mean, and I believe that the city's MRF is able to recycle plastic bags now. So you know, they do have to tear it open. I'm assuming their new machine does that. Remember when we did our tour that they were getting a new machine in, which I would love to get a tour to see how that works. But I'm assuming that must mulch it up or whatever. So just wanted to add that point now that I'm back in.
Okay. Yeah. And to your point, maybe we need to go, as a committee, we need to go visit the landfills, because maybe it would be helpful to have that clearer sort of what is there in these depots, and how can, if there's insights we have on how to make it easier for folks who want to access them. Okay. So any other comments? I think maybe at this point we can try and schedule a time for our next meeting. Now, I don't, like maybe like in 6 weeks or something like that, or I'm not sure, Crystal, was there another sort of time, something coming forward? I know there's the waste audit. I'm just trying to think, like, is there another item that we could schedule around in terms of having the meeting? Or I don't know if Dave Kuhn gave you like a time when he would like to come back, or.
We didn't discuss a time. It's actually Angie who was coordinating with him.
He said he just needs a couple weeks, so he doesn't need a lot of time.
I don't know if it
when
would
is
be
the
a better...
RFP back? Sorry.
So that closes the 20th of October. So I'm thinking, like, I don't know if you want to meet before it's awarded or after, but we're thinking it will be awarded by council November, like the first meeting in November, which I think is the 1st. So maybe the 2nd or the first week of November, so first or second week of November. I don't know if that's too far away.
Well, I'm just trying to remember in terms of our feedback, like the feedback from this meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Like, no, but also like, so that we can give that, so that
I got you.
This committee, I don't know.
So, I mean, I'll work on this in the next week.
I guess you can do that by
anyway.
email too, right? Like, we don't necessarily have to have a meeting, do we?
No. So what I could do is I can compile the information and kind of the direction that the committee provided tonight, and I can send it to you, Stephanie, for review, and if you want to share it with the committee. And perhaps we address it to council, like a letter to council saying these are our recommendations for waste management services moving forward. And like, I'm not really sure if that's the best way to do it, but certainly I'd be happy to compile kind of the discussion points that
I think that's sufficient. So I was thinking maybe like November 8th. Or not 8th, the Tuesday, maybe like you're saying council, it might come to council on the 1st of November or on the
1st.
On the first. So I mean, we could meet on the Tuesday, the 2nd, or
yep.
Is that?
It's actually right on 6 weeks.
Okay. I mean, because it'll be fresh, it'll be interesting. This, but also in the meantime, though, the feedback that we've put together here will be to council, so council will have that if depending on how the RFP comes back, maybe it'll be relevant or not relevant. Okay. And so do we want to try 5:15 or do we still want to try to aim for the 5? Because I know sometimes we have
5 should be okay.
What did you say? Sorry, 5?
It'll be getting darker then, so 5 should be okay.
Okay.
5 works for me, and the 2nd as well.
Okay, great.
I'll just give myself 20 minutes to get internet instead of 10.
Sorry. And then with that tower in Craig Key, will the tower in Craig Key get close enough to you? I don't know.
I don't know. I heard that past Lancaster that they're not doing any upgrades. So, but I don't know. That's another discussion.
Well, it's Storm, right? Storm's doing a tower at Craig Key and at North Lancaster. So definitely is going to be some, but I mean, that's with Storm, but there will be some sort of improved service available.
Just so you know, they've announced that Starlink is coming out of beta next month. So you'll be able to get that if you really want.
What? Sorry, Mike?
Starlink is the Elon Musk thing, the satellites.
Oh.
It's coming out of beta next month, so it'll be available.
All right.
So we're good for November 2nd at 5 p.m. I don't want to cut off the interesting conversation. I just realized, this is where our clerk says this is not part of the agenda, so we need to move along. And if I could have a motion to adjourn. Well, everyone enthusiastically, Aiden and Mike.
Yep,
All right, so
good.
all in favor? We're all in favor of adjourning? Yes, excellent.
Yeah,
All right, well, thanks.
I'll let
Harley.
Dave know about November 2nd.
Okay, thanks so much, guys, for hanging in here. I know this was a long meeting, but I hope you feel that this was